Good afternoon again, Villa 2. This is Mrs. Hughes, and we are going to continue on in our flipped math lessons. And today I'm going to be teaching you lesson 3-2, and the focus for this lesson is least common multiple. Now, before we go ahead and jump into the lesson, let's go ahead and do vocabulary. Our vocabulary word for today is least common multiple. You will also see this written often as LCM. And what the least common multiple is that in a set group of numbers, the LCM, least common multiple, is the smallest multiple all the numbers have in common. So this is what we're going to be looking for today. An example of least common multiple was if you had the numbers 2 and 4, and I just start listing out the multiples of 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and I can continue on, etc., etc. And then I list the multiples of 4. 4, 8, 12, 16. I can stop. I didn't really even have to go past 4 because I see right away that my least common multiple that they have in common is 4. And that's what the least common multiple is. It's a multiple that both the numbers have in common that is the smallest. So, how do we find least common multiple? This is what I'm going to be teaching you today. So let's go ahead and label our journals with examples. I will give you 2 examples today. And example A. So example A is going to ask us to find the LCM, least common multiple, of 8 and 10. So if I want to find the least common multiple that both 8 and 10 have in common, I have a few steps I'm going to follow. My first step, step 1, is going to be to list the multiples of 8 and 10. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to take 8 right here, and I'm going to put a colon right after that number, so I know that all the numbers that follow this are the multiples, and I'm going to begin. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, 72, and I'm going to stop at 80. And now I'm going to take 10. 10 is the next number in my set that I want to find the multiples for. 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and I'm going to stop at 80. Well, I see 2 numbers that these numbers have in common, and the lowest one I see is 40 right here, so I'm going to circle that. They also have 80 in common, but it's not as low as 40, so I'm going to ignore it. Step 2, I kind of already did. Step 2 wants you to identify and I'm going to put circle because that's what I just did right here. Circle the smallest multiple in both lists. Identify the smallest multiple that is the same in both lists. You have to make sure that that multiple is what they have in common. Common means they're the same. And then after that, after you've done that, you have your solution. And the solution of this problem is that our least common multiple is 40. And that would be my answer for finding the least common multiple of 8 and 10. Okay, if you need to get caught up on these notes, pause. I have one more example for you. All right, my second example I have for you today, we are going to label example B. And for this one, we're going to be asked to find the least common multiple, LCM, of 12 and 30. Now, this way we're going to be looking at prime factorization again. So we're going to be using the prime numbers to find the least common multiple. And to do this, our first step, step 1, is to list the prime factorizations of each number. So if I was going to do this, I would take 12. I'm going to put 12 over here. And I am going to find my prime numbers. So I'm going to do this one with the tree. So I'm going to break off some branches. And I'm going to say 6 times 2 gives me 12. 2 is prime, 6 is composite, so I can find more factors for 6. And I can say 3 times 2 gives me 6. 3 and 2 are both prime numbers. I am done with my prime factorization tree. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to write my equation up here. And I'm going to say 12 equals, and remember, sequential order. We're putting them least to greatest. 2 times 2 times 3. I've identified all my prime numbers, and I now have them in my equation here. Now I need to find the prime numbers for 30. This time I'm going to do the cake method. I just like for you to be able to see the different methods used. So I'm going to use the cake method over here. I'm going to place 30 way down here at the bottom. And I'm going to give my division sign. And I'm going to say, well, I know 5 can go into 30. 5 goes into 30 6 times. 6 is a composite number, so I can divide it. I'm going to put my division symbol, and I'm going to say 2 can go into 6. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 is prime. I now have all my prime factors here. So I'm going to come and I'm going to write my equation over here, and I'm going to say 30 equals, and remember, in order, 2 times 3 would come next. 3 times 5. 5 is last. I now have all of my prime factorizations for each of these numbers. And once I have that, I want to see what numbers do they have in common. I see that 12 and 30 have a prime factor of 2 in common. And I see that 12 and 30 have a prime factor of 3 in common. I'm now ready for step 2. Step 2 is to find the product of the common factors in both equations. And I saw that it was 2 and 3, so I'm going to take my 2, and I just take the number. I don't take how many times the number's here. So there's 2 2's here, but they're the same, so I just count it as 1 2. 2 times, the other number they had in common was 3. And 2 times 3 gives me 6. 6 is my product. And the 2 and the 3, these were my common factors. I'm now going to go on to my third step. Step 3, you're going to multiply the product of the common factors and in our case the product was 6 by the factors not common. And if I look back up here, I will see my 2 factors that were not in common were 2 and 5. So I would put 2 and 5 right there. So for this third step, I'm taking the product and I'm multiplying it by the factors that were not common. So this would look like 6 times 2 times 5. And 6 times 2 is 12, and 12 times 5 would give me 60. Therefore, I have my solution. The least common multiple, LCM, of 12 and 30 is 60. And that is my answer. Please make sure you have all these notes written down, and you may do the quick quiz right above this video to see how well you understand this concept. I will see you tomorrow in class. Have a great evening.